So where'd we end up today?
Today we are in Davenport, Iowa. Yesterday we were in Bloomington, Illinois to visit some friends and took a spin over here because we had heard about the German American Heritage Center. And we just did a nice tour of the center. Wonderful place. And we want to share that with everybody today.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Very enjoyable, informative, interesting.
Right? We haven't seen a lot of Davenport yet, but what we've seen has been very pleasant, very easy to get around. We are right down here by the Mississippi River, and this was an important settlement area for German Americans when they came to this country in the late 1800s. We are from Wisconsin, and we have a bunch of German Americans there too, and that's why we're interested in this, because that's my heritage as well. And it was kind of interesting to see what the Germans in Iowa did.
They had a lot of German history and what happened there and why they came here and that sort of thing, and some of the things they had to endure and all that. It was just
very interesting. And I had relatives that moved to Iowa, so it was just kind of a curiosity thing. We'll take you on a tour and hope you enjoy it. And if you get a chance and you're interested in this sort of thing, you can come see it yourself. After a pleasant drive from the north side of Davenport down through a residential area, we arrived at the museum and walked into the lobby, which was welcome on a cold day. Very well lit lobby with a wonderful gift shop. We were greeted at the desk, and the first thing we took a look at was the rotating display of artifacts that they get in, sometimes on loan. That was very interesting. And then we proceeded to visit the rest of the museum, which is accessible from an elevator or by the stairs. We took the stairs, but I went in the elevator just to give an example of what that's like. The first thing we did was go to another rotating exhibition area. This time it was showing the artwork of someone who had gone to Germany to study and done some photography work there and brought the work back. Very interesting. And then we proceeded to go down to the main permanent attraction area, which is the museum itself, with all of the permanent things on display that you can look in regard to the German immigrant experience. Marvelous place with a lot of interactive displays. You grab one of these passport cards for one of the different people, and it tells you the story of that person, and that's fascinating. Various people, and you can carry those cards around throughout the display. There are different kiosks set up where you can see the continuation of their story in different categories of the immigrant experience. We were very satisfied with that, and these display panels are just loaded with tons of information, and they're marked on the floor what they are. This particular one talked about the journey here, the transportation here with the ships and what the people went through. And each of these has a special sliding section on it that you can read the final parts of the story. Again, very well done, laid out very well, very interactive. It keeps your interest as you're going through and reading about all of these things. Here's another interactive display. They have a movie that you can see with either English or German subtitles that talks about the museum and the history of the people that came here and started the museum. Again, more of the interactive displays as you continue through the permanent display area. A lot of artifacts have been donated, a lot of good historical information. A lot of the trunks that are on display, and some other interesting facts about the immigration and when it finally started to slow down, the kinds of clothes the people wore, how they took care of themselves. And here's another great interactive display where students from the local high school participated and recorded different scenarios, different scripts of different people that came here and the experience they had coming over on the boat and first getting here. It's very easy. You step on the footprints there for one of the people, and it starts the display with a little bit of an introduction, who we're listening to, where they tell their story about coming here on the boat, the experience they had, and how they were greeted here. It was really, really well done. Here is another one with a young man that came over and met his family here. Speaking of trunks, they have several there, one showing the typical kind of content that would be in there, and some of the more ornate steamer trunks. And I have trunks at home. This is my great-grandpa's trunk when he came from Tatendorf and through New York and to Madison, Wisconsin. Here's another one of my relatives, and this was in my mother's family. So these are the trunks that they came with. Here's an area that looks like it would be fun for kids of all ages. Displays that are meant for the younger crowd to keep them engaged in the visit. You can dress up in period costumes to have your picture taken. And this looks like something for an adult. My wife grabbed an old-fashioned dress. And there are hats you can try on. Pose for a picture. And here is yet another interactive display set up for the kids. You just take the piece and move it into position to where you want to see, and it'll start playing.
It's going to be a slow ride. You have chosen a snail ship. Just kidding. There were no snails on the ship. It was a sailing ship.
And then you move on to even more display boards. This is information about the hotel itself that was converted to the museum. Very fascinating story there. Here's an example of one of the rooms recreated that the immigrants stayed in. Small hotel rooms typical of the era in the late 1800s. People from the German states made up the largest group of people to emigrate to the United States. And it is estimated that 42% of the people in the United States have German ancestry. Yet another interactive display with a lot of narration. You can pull up all sorts of topics here that you want to listen to and read about at the same time. Display case again of more artifacts. I found that fascinating. And I actually grew up around a lot of these different artifacts when I was a kid. We had them on the farm, so I'm very familiar with them. We have artifacts like this in some of our local museums here in Wisconsin. And the Kraut cutter. That's near and dear to my heart. Here's an example of the Kraut cutter that was used. Our family got together and made sauerkraut every fall in kind of an assembly line process. And I have that Kraut cutter, and I actually still use it to make sauerkraut. Here's an old Bible that came over, Heilige Schrifft, and very familiar with those as well. These are some from my family, my grandmother's Bibles. Top it off at the end, you are invited to narrate and recreate your own immigration story. So I did that. I went to the display, nice touch screen there. You just press to record your own experience and start recording your story, and it's saved there for others to listen to. What immigrant story do you have to tell? As you probably noticed in the video, I've got quite a bit of old memorabilia and antiques around here, and I've had the good fortune of knowing some of my ancestors personally that came here from Germany, including my mother's mom, my grandmother, born in Germany, and she lived to be 100 years old, and I knew her for 20 years of my life, and she would tell me stories of the homeland and growing up as a child in northern Germany. And I've had the good fortune to visit the village that she grew up in and the church that she attended as a child, and had the good fortune to actually visit all the villages that all my ancestors came from and talk to the people there and walk the streets and roads that they walked and see the buildings they saw when they were children growing up there in the 1800s. And that's what makes things like this museum fascinating for me. I plan to do some videos in the future about genealogy. I've done a lot of research. I have a lot of documents, and I can give some tips and pointers in digging into your past, regardless of where that might be from. So if you have a chance, visit this museum. If German heritage is your ancestry chain. Otherwise, if you're from some other part of the world, I'm sure there are museums that are dedicated to the history and events of immigration from those places as well. I think it's a fascinating topic, and this museum is a great example of how you can find things to help you dig into that search. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm looking forward to making more videos of little stops we make here in the Midwest and around the country that you might find of interest. So thank you again for watching, and if you enjoyed, please click like and consider subscribing to our channel. So until next time, take care.